Greetings everybody, welcome to Derri-Gacha and welcome to a Snowbreak video. And this video is going to be about talking about the multiplayer aspect of the game, because I think that a lot of people, especially a large majority of the people in the Discord for the game, they've also stated that, as well as me, yeah, this game could be better. This game could have potential. I would like to see where this goes. So they've stuck around and seen where things have gone. But there's been, I don't know, there's been an update or two that's just for the new characters and things. So as far as I'm aware, there has been nothing said about new bits of content, when the story is going to continue or anything like that. But I'm going to be spending a bit of time, it's undetermined as of now because I'm recording this on a whim, talking about multiplayer, and that's where I think the game would best value the dedication and the time put into it to make the game better. Pardon me. Because my argument for this is that Snowbreak is not like the traditional gacha, quote unquote. If I was to establish what the traditional gacha was, then it would be the gacha that would that is 2D. So, you know, while it would have an interesting art style, there does generally with 2D games there doesn't seem to be an abundance of depth within the gameplay itself, the gameplay loop. There's just a lot of content that tries to differ from the main formula quite a bit. But with Snowbreak, I feel like it's very much different, because they already have quite a few interesting mechanics. Although it's nothing new, don't get me wrong, it's nothing new, but it's because it's in here, that means that we can, you know, we don't have to think or guess as much as we may have to, depending on if it was, you know, 2D or not. For example, like they've got dodge, they've got some decent team building aspects in there as well. They've got the operators and stuff like that. So I had a couple of ideas that I could definitively say that I'm confident that I would like to see in the game. If I was perhaps one of the biggest voices in influencing the direction of the game, then I would definitely like to see these modes I'm about to mention. Now, to perhaps establish some context beforehand, I'm gonna just go over what Gigalink is about. So, Snowbreak has a multiplayer mode, and that is called Gigalink, and what you do is you go from arena to arena in a linear fashion. So, think of it like Devil May Cry, for example, for level design. So you go from arena to arena, from one end of the map to the other, and once you reach the end of the map, that is where the boss spawns, and you must kill the boss, and then once the boss is dead, you win the level. Easy peasy. Now, the incentive to do it is just because you have fun doing it, I suppose. I don't feel like it's particularly important in the grand scheme of things. I feel that the game is, you know, it's underutilizing its multiplayer aspect, because you have your basic 3-member party like you would in campaign, but otherwise it's not that different, apart from all the players that encompass your 3-man party, they can use exactly the same character. So if you had if you had 35-star, for example, if every player had 35-star, they can use 35-star in that same party. Not something you can do in campaign though. But that's fine, you know, that is a fun mode that you can go into to mess about it. I mean, you can get rewards from it, don't get me wrong, but they don't seem as valuable as for what I'm gonna mention quite soonish. So, for example, because you have those 3 party members, you go through those areas and you complete it over and over again, and it doesn't really matter who you choose. You'll probably have at least one carry on your team. Oh, and also, something I forgot to mention is that buffs get randomly put into chests. I did explain this in my 35-star builds video, that you get chests after, or at least between every arena, that you can open and then choose a buff for your character. It doesn't apply to your entire team, it applies for your character only. but every player has a chance to open that same chest and get a buff out of there. So it's fundamentally it's meh, honestly. It's fun for the first few times, but once you've done it like 3 or 4 times, you've basically experienced the entire mode, so it does get boring really quickly. So to expand upon this, Hero Games, that is the new event that has been introduced into the game, or at least it's new-ish. It's not even 2 days old as far as I'm aware, as of this video being made. And what it does, Hero Games basically removes that, I guess, progression through the level. It just sticks you in an area, usually the end of the level, and it's more like a wave survival kind of mode, because you have 3 rounds, quote unquote, what the game calls it, 3 waves that you have to survive, and you just kill the enemies, and that's it. You have 1 chest that you go and pick as many buffs from as you can, and honestly, I feel like this is even less creative than what they did before. I know that I don't know, actually. I'll correct myself there. I hope that this is filler for some actually decent content that's going to come later on, but we'll never know. We will see. And this is my main problem, was because this new mode, it doesn't really change anything that the original mode established, or at least it didn't improve upon it enough to make me interested in doing it. The only reason I would do it is so that I would go and claim the 20 currency, gems, jade, whatever it is, to convert into poles to do the gacha side of the game. But there is a fundamental system flaw that I have found and that I really don't agree with. So, to do the Hero Games event in the game, you have to spend 200 stamina for a moon token. You could have a maximum of 2 moon tokens per day, which means that you need to spend 400 presents per day. As of right now, I am level 56, and I cannot have any more than 160 presents naturally generate, which isn't a lot. Now, some of you may say, well, that's fine, because the developers have put in daily rewards in the mail that give you the, give you the boulder inhibitors, which are basically items that can regen your stamina. And they'll be happy with that. You know, they have a way to participate in the event and they won't have to worry so much. Fine. If they're happy with that, that's fine. You know, they're still enjoying the game. But for me, I am not fine with it, because this seems like a tacked-on method of having to provide your players with a way of participating in a limited event. As far as I'm aware, it's a limited event. And it doesn't seem like a good system if you have to rely on the regular supply of items delivered in the mail to have a better chance at getting a token. This is just to meet the requirements of getting a token. This is not even playing it, right? I really don't understand why they had to put in some special currency. It just doesn't make any sense. The only bit that I do like about it is that to get the tokens, you have to spend normal stamina. So you could just, you know, do your dailies and farm a little bit, and you will get them without any problem. So it doesn't feel like you're going out of your way to get them. But it's still bad, because why put a middleman, essentially, a middleman currency, to go and participate in this event? It just doesn't seem necessary. So, as like, on concept, it's maybe fine, but in implementation, it's quite horrible, in my opinion. And I probably should have said this at the beginning of the video. Every opinion that I've expressed in this video is purely my own. I'm not holding a secret council or something in the Snowbreak Discord or whatever. This is my opinion. And this is just what I want to suggest, or at least just throw out some ideas for. So I got to thinking, what could I actually do to make the mode better? If I was given reins to change, /alter, just add to Gigalink, what would I do? So my first answer was, I would, instead of having all the players have the same character, have the potential to pick the same character, you could only pick different characters. This is going back to the campaign missions, because you can't pick this exactly the same characters. You know what I mean? You can pick the same characters, but only at different rarities. You can't pick the same rarity of the same character. It just isn't allowed. It just isn't. So we'll keep that consistency going in this new Gigalink mode, which will be permanent. It is not tied to any event. It is not time gated. It is perhaps level gated, which is okay. I wouldn't have preferred it to be level gated, but maybe we could unlock it with Gigalink itself. I don't think having the other Gigalink mode, having a separate level gate, would be really that good. So you'd unlock Gigalink in its entirety for one thing, or for many modes, but if it's for one level. But once you have all that unlocked, you can go in, you wouldn't be able to select the same party member for this party configuration that you'd set out on. The other thing is that before you go in, if, for example, neural simulation, you can adjust how difficult or how easy a boss can be. But obviously, if it's more difficult, then you can have more rewards. You can collect more shit from it. And I like that. That was cool. I like the system. Let's just bring that over, put it into this new Gigalink mode, so that when you've chosen your party, maybe, this is again, I'm just suggesting stuff here, this is not thought out in any capacity, you could decide, you could have a list basically, first off, of all the buffs that are available, and you'd start off with a buff for each party member, for each player in that team. And they would pick it, and they would say, yes, I want that, depending on what character they've picked, right? So, for example, if they've picked a shotgun character, they pick active reloading. If they've picked Chengxing 5-star, they probably want crit damage or something. You know, there's something like that. They get to pick a boon, and then once that goes, either it gets voted on, or the game randomly picks. I would prefer if the game randomly picks a buff for the enemies as well. So this randomness perhaps may be a bit annoying, but I mean, this is going to have many more rewards in it, but it's not a farmable event. We don't want it to be another farmable event. And some of you may think, well, isn't this just going to be something like Spiral Abyss and Genshin? Well, yes and no, right? I'm more thinking of, if any of you have played the awesome game that is Devil May Cry 3, and you're thinking about, the Bloody Palace. That was fucking awesome. I love Bloody Palace. But something like that, that would be good. So, once you have picked a buff for your team and a buff for the enemy team, or technically 3, because there's 3 for each, they'll finally get set onto the battlefield, and then you'd commence going up the floors. And you'd also have the decision to either go fast, but have the maximum amount of danger. So, if you're wanting to skip like 3... when you choose this like ascension path and you skip 3 floors, but you're guaranteed to go into a boss, or you could go through every single floor. For example, let's just say that this mode has 10 floors. You could go through every single floor, 1 to 10, without skipping any of them, and you will not encounter a boss. And then there's a path in the middle for somewhere in between, right? So that again could be a nice bit of strategy. This is all about strategy. I want to make clear, because unlike the standardized route of gacha games, as far as I've seen, it's all 2D. There are, as I've mentioned earlier, there's a lot of content in the game, but the actual mechanics of the game are not that deep. You can grasp a hold of them in about 10-15 minutes, and that is it. You are essentially playing the game. There is nothing more to it. But with Snowbreak, there's a lot more potential for the depth of those mechanics to be so fucking deep. Deep sea creatures may actually move in. You'll get fucking coral growing in there. Hell, you get massive lobsters, right? Growing in there. You'll be supporting marine wildlife. It'll be that fucking deep. So why not try and do it? You've clearly given yourself that ability. Let's try and use it. So with that, as I've mentioned, you're in the battlefield, and then you've got 3 separate paths. Each floor has its own set of enemies. You can view these enemies, these sets of enemies, before you go in, so you know what you're expecting. You could, if you wanted to, this is optional. I don't know. It depends on the player who plays the mode. This is generally also going to be a more difficult mode than normal Gigalink, because this is for players who have already gotten to max level and have already gotten max gear, or at least 2 teams built and stuff like that. But back to the main bit, you can, if you really wanted to, you could have your roster of enemies that you will face, but sometimes those rosters will not show the enemies, because that at least makes it a little interesting. You could guess by the amount of minions and bosses that the floor has, but you won't know which minions or which bosses. Now, some people may not agree with that, because they want to go in and they want to know exactly what they're expecting. But to be honest, again, this is for strategy. You're gonna throw some curveballs in there, because otherwise it'll be just as boring as the base Gigalink, which is what we have at the moment. It's like everybody has access to, even the casuals won't mind it. But this is for, again, this mode is to be difficult. This is to be more interesting than the other Gigalink mode. So you may or may not want to implement that with floors just hiding the details of some or all of the enemies. But essentially, once you've completed all 10 floors, especially at the 10th floor, there's a big challenge. In my mind, the 10th floor will have 2 different bosses at the same time. And why 2? Because if it's 1, then it's too easy, because they'll just gangbang it and kill it instantly. If it's 3, then that'll be too much to deal with, because you know, like, oh, these bosses are fine and everything, they're too easy, but all we've experienced so far is bosses on their own. It's not been multiple bosses at the same time. For example, we've never had a Gavin and a Joseph. We've never had a Hela and a Cerberus. We've never had, you know, stuff like that. You know, we've never had a combination of bosses trying to kill us at the same time. So, because that opens up a new medium of strategy, let's not make it too complicated. 2 bosses, I think, is the perfect middle ground. So you would have 3 different players and 2 bosses to kill. So one, like, you would have at least 1 player on each boss, and the 3rd one will have to say, right, which one do I want to focus on first? Which one needs my help the most? And that will may perhaps change throughout the battle. I don't know, if you want to put like buffs that are that get activated at a certain time in the battle or something. But regardless, you will have 2 bosses to kill at the last floor. For this example, it will be at the 10th floor. And once you kill the bosses, you'll have loads of rewards. You'll have a lot of gear. You'll have a lot of, for example, a lot of weapons, a lot of your logistics, a lot of materials to upgrade the manifestation powers, a lot of shards for characters, but only for the... I mean, I don't... I'm dying here because I'm enthusiastic about Snowbreak, imagine. But I don't know if this should be for the characters that you play, or if it's just randomized. Because, again, I don't want it to be too annoying, personally. I would be more on the generous side and say, yes, if you want to build a certain character, you got to take it through this mode to get them the shards. I don't know how many, but you'll be getting some for that character that you played. So, you know, at least it's a bit deterministic, you know. But you'll also get stuff like inhibitors. You'll also get stuff like those fucking items that revise the logistics talents. I don't even know what they're called, but they're there. It's one of the rewards for one of the Gigalink events. Stuff like that, right? I'm basing this again off Counterside as well, because Counterside does its PvE elements quite well, I feel. At least it has something always going on, and the rewards are really worth getting. So you're always encouraged to go and participate in that mode for your own benefit. So, you know, there is that. But that would be the main thing. That would be my main mode that I would want to implement. And because it's only 10 floors right when it's made initially, we can easily scale it up or down, or whatever, right? But that's one aspect. The other one would be more like, well, I mean, it's not necessarily multiplayer exactly, but this is more like kind of a single player thing. It's an offhand thing that I thought about, probably perhaps once or twice. It involves a practice level, so that you're able to pick a team and then find out how well they do against certain bosses. So could either do one of two ways of doing it. Could even you could pick your boss, how difficult, how easy you want it to be. Does it summon minions? Does it not? Does it have special stat boosts? Does it not? But you pick your team, you go and hit it. Either you go and hit it for a specified amount of damage in a time frame, or you go and hit it for as much damage as you can in a specified time frame, or you go and hit it till it's dead. There are many ways you could tackle that, but they're just for analyzing the team's skill ceiling with the currently equipped gear, the composition, and your skill. How feasible is it to get this amount of damage, or that amount of damage, or what is the max that my team could possibly go to? Who knows? But that could be a nice way of gauging the direction of where you want to take your party as well. So yeah, it's not multiplayer exactly, but it's something for more like an end game purpose, so that at least you could just have a feel about how powerful your party could potentially be without having to feel like you need to commit resources to find that information out. So it's not necessarily a risk, but it's more like a consideration. So there is that. But for the other multiplayer mode, I haven't really thought of one, to be fair. But you know, there's a lot that can be done with Gigalink. Honestly, you could do a boss rush. You could. It has been done before. It is not a new thing. But we shouldn't be focusing on doing too many new things if we're thinking even when we're thinking hypothetically. A boss rush could be good. And you'll, for example, you'll have 3 sets of 3 bosses. You'll face 3 bosses all at once. So it's more like it's building off of the new event stuff. So you're in one arena, and you face off just bosses in the order that they appear in the campaign. But between each round, so they'll have 3 rounds. But between each round, you can swap out characters. Which may make it a lot easier or a lot harder. I don't know. But you won't have any boons like you would. Like, you won't have any crates that gives you like, rolling to fill the magazine, or infinite health so long as you kill enemies, sort of thing. It'll just be down to the gear that you got equipped and the skill that you have, and you have to kill all those bosses. Again, you'll be doing it with 2 other people as well, so it's not by yourself. But that could be potentially a nice thing as well. I'm not sure what rewards that would have, but that could be a nice rewarding filler mode as well, because the hero games is filler from what I've played of it, and it's also time gated as well. That one may be a little bit better, because it focuses more on skill than just having to rely on loads of buffs that could just make your experience a lot easier. It generally, I feel like even with that simple premise, it's better designed than what is currently on the game. But anyway, those are some ideas. I don't want to go too far into this, because otherwise I will just be here forever. And I'll potentially circle back to points that I've already made. So for now, I will let this rest. Out of those 3 ideas, one of them not even being multiplayer, but it's not the only aspect. I'm just thinking, this could be a good idea. What do you think? Do these ideas mesh well in your head, or they're not good? I don't know. Have a talk about it in the comments. Let me see what you say, because I know that they be the sort of modes that I would pick. but they would not be. This is more late game, but they'd not be for everyone. I know it's very difficult to please everyone, and it's generally not a good idea. But for people who have more experience in, in gacha games in general, maybe, or in Snowbreak specifically, maybe give your thoughts down below on this, because I do like the game. I have been playing it for a while now, and I feel like it could really do with some content, for PvE content. I think I could make a video about PvP in a different video, but I don't know. I'm not sure whether this is the game for it. It could be, but again, that'll probably be in a future video at some point. But for PvE, those are the ideas that I have. Do they work? Do they not work? Put your thoughts down in the comments below. But until then, I'm going to leave you with that. I'll hang around, obviously, and I will. And in case you actually do have a thought or two, I'll probably reply and try and justify my thoughts about certain aspects of what I think, what I've suggested here, especially if you didn't manage to take anything away from this or anything. But we can have a good conversation down in the comments, because I would really want to work on maybe trying to improve the game a little bit. But anyway, that's really all I have for today. So it's not that special, but at the same time, it's more like I think that I'm wanting to see the game flourish, and I'm putting some ideas out there. Who knows if they're good ideas or not, which is why, more minds are needed for this problem than just me. But anyway, apart from that, I'm going to leave you with those ideas. Hopefully you have enjoyed the video, and hopefully you've loved to listen to me ramble on about something that ultimately does not matter. And I will see you in the next video. See you next time, my dudes.